Welcome back to the deep dive. If your calendar, your to-do lists, and just your general mental state feel like they are constantly battling this overwhelming tide of notifications, automation, and just sheer information, you are definitely in the right place. We live in this world that's just obsessed with optimization. AI promises to give us our time back, but somehow we feel more rushed and, I think, less purposeful than ever before.
It's a classic modern paradox, isn't it? And that is precisely why today's deep dive is, I think, so incredibly relevant. We're actually going to set aside the latest life hack for a moment.
Okay.
And instead, we're going to examine a spiritual system for personal excellence that is, well, thousands of years old. Our material today draws from excerpts related to the book Muhammad Kamelik, The Timeless Model of Success for Everyone in the AI Era by Mr. Zahir Ahmad Mir.
That title alone it cuts right to the core of it all. Success in the age of algorithms, but defined by a timeless model. So we're looking beyond just, external efficiency.
Way beyond. We're looking at the internal toolkit the Prophet Muhammad used to build a life of purpose, resilience, and genuine ethical consistency.
Okay, so our mission today, for you listening, is pretty straightforward.
It is. We are unpacking 3 core practices that the source material really frames as spiritual productivity tools. These are dua, which is supplication,
Right.
Tafakkur, which is reflection, and Muḥāsabah, or self-accountability. And the goal for you is to see how you can map these ancient tools onto your modern routine.
To bring back some balance.
Exactly, to provide some emotional balance and moral clarity, especially when the world feels so, automated and just distracting.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The core hypothesis, the big idea we want you to really test as you listen, is that while we're constantly inventing new digital productivity tools, the Prophet provided something far superior. Spiritual productivity tools.
And the source argues this really compellingly. In this hyper-digital age, the most advanced technology you have is still the human soul. The trick is, you have to learn how to program it with faith and with intentional, disciplined practice.
I like that framing. Spiritual engineering, like you're building an internal operating system that's resistant to all the external chaos.
That's it. It's about cultivating an internal resilience that algorithms just can't touch. A system that is purpose-driven, emotionally anchored, and always self-correcting. So let's start at the foundation, the direct connection.
Let's begin with dua. Now, as you mentioned, this is often just understood as asking God for something. A request for health, wealth, or safety. But the sources are defining this as something much, much more foundational than just a spiritual wish list.
Oh, infinitely more. Dua is fundamentally defined here not merely as a request for your needs, but as a system for aligning your personal will with divine wisdom, with Allah's wisdom.
Okay, say more about that. A system for aligning.
Well, think of it like recalibrating your GPS. You might have a destination in mind, sure, but dua is that process of consulting the master mapmaker to make sure your desired path is truly the most beneficial one, the most aligned one.
That completely reframes the whole exercise. It moves dua from something transactional into a deep intentional spiritual posture.
It does.
What's fascinating here is that the source material points to this direct invitation in the Quran itself. It makes the whole thing feel less like a hurdle and more like, an open door.
It's a radical statement of accessibility. The book cites Quran 40.60, and your Lord said, "Call upon me, I will respond to you."
Wow.
Just stop and consider the implication of that direct, unqualified promise. It establishes a relationship based on immediate, unmediated communication. This isn't some tentative request you're making through a bureaucracy.
No.
It's an explicit command, and it's coupled with a divine promise of a response.
So if the response is guaranteed, then the purpose of the dua shifts. It's not about trying to convince the divine to do something. It's more about trying to stabilize ourselves.
Precisely. You've hit it right on the head. It reframes the whole practice. When we engage in dua, we are primarily working on our own internal state. We're cultivating humility, acknowledging our reliance, and building what's known as tawakkul.
Tawakkul. Okay, we need to dive into that. This is the concept of relying or trusting in God. How does the practice of dua actually cultivate this emotional anchor, especially with all the background noise of modern life?
Tawakkul. It's really the psychological benefit of this alignment system. Think about it. Today we face Overwhelming job insecurity, volatile markets, rapid social change. People are carrying this incredibly heavy mental load, constantly trying to control every single variable.
Right, trying to future-proof everything.
Yes. And tawakkul is the intentional surrender of the outcome to the divine, but, and this is key only after you've put in your own effort, dua is the active moment where you perform that surrender.
Okay, so an example. If I lose my job, I don't just collapse into anxiety because I think I failed. I recognize that the effort was mine, but the final outcome was determined by a higher wisdom. This frees up so much mental energy.
Absolutely. The core lesson here is that dua keeps you emotionally anchored and stable. Anxiety, at its root, stems from the illusion of control. When you actively and frequently remind yourself that ultimate control rests outside of your limited self, and you trust that the one in control is also all-wise and all-loving, you're freed from that crushing weight of having to manage every single possibility. It stabilizes you during financial stress, professional setbacks, even just the small daily frustrations.
And it sounds like the prophet of me didn't just reserve this for big moments of crisis. He made it a constant rhythm. The source calls it a prophetic rhythm of mindfulness.
It is the perfect architectural antidote to the frantic, reactive, modern schedule we all live by. The Prophet Ni incorporated dua into, well, virtually every situation. It was a conscious, continuous integration.
So not just at prayer times.
Not at all. Before sleeping, upon waking, before eating, before starting a journey, upon entering or exiting the home. There were even specific supplications for moments of anger or intense gratitude.
Can you give us a few specific examples and sort of explain how these micro moments function as a whole system?
Of course. Let's take the dua before sleeping. It is a conscious submission of the day's worries, of your body's fragility, and a surrender of your autonomy before you enter that unconscious state.
I never thought of it like that.
That practice signals to yourself, I have done my best today, and now I hand the night and the fate of my body to the Creator.
That ritual is an act of deep psychological release.
What are the ones tied to movement, like entering and exiting the home? That seems so routine.
That's the point. It transforms the routine. Before entering or exiting your home, it's a moment of intentionality, of boundary setting. When you step out, you are asking for protection from error and misguidance in the world you're about to step into.
And when you come back. When you return, you're expressing gratitude for safe passage and seeking blessing for the sanctuary you're re-entering. These small practices, they transform routine, mechanical actions, locking the door, getting into bed, starting the car, and they sanctify them. They turn them into points of continuous, practical connection.
It stops us from just running on autopilot all the time. I mean, if you have to pause, even for a few seconds, to articulate a connection to the divine before you eat or before a difficult meeting, you're constantly being reminded of the ethical and spiritual dimension of that action.
It's a constant calibration, and this is where the modern application really stands out for you, the learner. We are all constantly searching for these fleeting anchors in digital space.
And this source material challenges us to consider replacing our anxiety scrolls with intentional dua moments. That is incredibly relatable.
We have to look at the impulse behind it. When we feel a micro-stress, a moment of confusion, or just a gap in our attention, what do we instinctively do?
Reach for the phone. Every time.
Exactly. And that impulse is often an attempt to reconnect, but we connect to more input. To notifications, news feeds, chaos. The anxiety scroll, it just drives you outward into comparison, consumption, and more distraction.
Whereas if we substitute that compulsive action with, say, a minute of sincere supplication, a quick dua for patience or for guidance or just for clarity, we're actively choosing to refocus internally.
And the benefit is twofold. First, you harness that divine promise of a response. And second, you cultivate the habit of turning inward toward peace and intentionality rather than outward toward more stimulation and chaos. This constant internal check, rooted in sincerity and trust, is the first and maybe the most powerful spiritual productivity tool. It sets the moral integrity for your entire day.
Okay, so if dua is where the heart aligns itself with divine will, the next tool, Tafakkur reflection, that sounds like where the mind aligns itself with divine purpose. And this isn't just casual thinking, is it? This is mandated contemplation.
That mandate is the key insight here. The Quran doesn't treat reflection as some, optional intellectual exercise. It sees it as a critical spiritual function, and it repeatedly commands it. The source highlights phrases used all across the scripture. Do they not reflect? Or, verily in this are signs for people who reflect.
So to fail to reflect is, in a way, to willfully ignore the signs of God's creation and power that are all around you.
That's it exactly. So reflection, Tafakkur, it becomes an act of worship in and of itself. It is a necessary cognitive function, and it's tied to recognizing the majesty of creation and, as a result, your own place within it.
The act of dedicated contemplation is elevated to the level of devotion.
It means looking at the cycles of the day and night, or the complexity of a human relationship, or the structure of the cosmos, and actually deriving spiritual lessons from them. It's the complete antithesis of mindlessness.
In our culture, though, when we talk about reflection, I think we often confuse it with escape. We try to zone out, listen to some binaural beats, or just daydream. But the prophetic model seems to suggest a much more disciplined, focused use of silence and solitude.
It absolutely demands discipline, not escape. The silence that the prophet A sought was for profound internal deliberation, not just a retreat from noise. The classic historical example is, of course, the Cave of Ara.
Right.
This was not a vacation from Mecca. It was a rigorous, focused exercise in contemplation and readiness that would last for days and even weeks at a time.
And this profound stillness was the necessary crucible for the greatest event in his life, the descent of revelation.
Precisely. The Cave of Ara was the birthplace of revelation, but more importantly for our deep dive today, it demonstrates a core principle of leadership. Reflection builds the necessary clarity you need before you commit to an action. If a leader, or really any person seeking excellence, doesn't dedicate time to stillness and synthesis, their actions will inevitably be reactive. They'll be based on external pressure rather than internal clarity.
That concept, clarity before action, it runs completely counter to the modern ethos, which just rewards speed, reaction, constant output. So how does a practice like Tafakkur stand up against our constant information overload?
Modern life is optimized for input. Every screen, every notification, every meeting, every single device is designed to feed us more data. We have optimized consumption to an incredible degree, but we have failed to optimize processing.
And the result is mental congestion, fatigue, and burnout.
It's like having a computer that only takes in new files but never runs a cleanup or a defrag. Eventually, the operating system just slows to a crawl.
That's the mind detox analogy from the source. Tafakkur is the dedicated time to manage that information overload, to synthesize what you've experienced, and to filter the signal from the noise.
It is necessary maintenance for your mental clarity. Without it, all that data just becomes junk that compromises your decision-making.
But practically speaking, just finding time for contemplation can feel like a luxury. Impossible even when you're juggling a career, family, social commitments. How does the prophetic model make this accessible?
The source material understands this challenge, and it provides a wonderfully practical, non-intimidating framework. It suggests dedicating just 10 minutes a day.
Only 10 minutes.
Just 10, a very manageable commitment. And it's for focused reflection framed by two specific, very powerful questions.
And those questions are the heart of the practice. One, what did I learn today? And two, what did Allah show me?
Let's spend a little time on the nuance between those two, because they really define the spiritual trajectory of Tafakkur.
Okay, let's start with the first one. What did I learn today?
So this is the external, more metric-driven side of reflection. It's your academic and observational processing. Did I acquire a new skill at work? Did I gain a new insight into a difficult conversation I had? Did I encounter a new piece of data that changed my understanding of a subject?
So it's a practical self-audit of knowledge and intellectual growth.
Yes, it focuses on the measurable change in your external understanding of the world.
But if we stop there, it would just be secular self-help, wouldn't it? That's where the second question must come in.
Precisely. The second question, what did Allah show me, is the essential spiritual lens. This is what elevates the reflection from simple learning to profound wisdom. This is where you actively look for the deeper meaning, the ethical lesson, the sign of divine mercy, or the guidance that was embedded within the events of your day.
It's the shift from collecting data to gaining insight into your purpose.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Can you give an example of that shift in thinking?
A simple one. Let's say someone was rude to you at the grocery store. The answer to, what did I learn, might be, I learned that retail workers are really stressed out.
Okay.
But the answer to, what did Allah show me, might be something like, I was shown the limits of my own patience, and I was given an opportunity to practice restraint and empathy despite being provoked.
Wow. The event itself is neutral, but the spiritual reflection completely transforms it into a lesson in moral cultivation.
Yes. By structuring your reflection this way, you ensure your 10 minutes aren't just spent worrying, or rehashing stressful events. They are actively spent identifying patterns of growth and purpose. It turns your mental downtime into a disciplined spiritual workout.
And it connects that external experience back to your internal state and your ultimate purpose.
Yeah.
It establishes a clear mind that's ready to be held accountable.
And this clarity, this tafakkur, is the absolute necessary prerequisite for the third tool, because without clarity on what you should have done, self-assessment is it's just subjective guilt.
So we've aligned the heart through dua, we've cleared the mind through tafakkur, and now we move to the final critical piece, action and consequence, which is achieved through Muḥāsabah, self-accountability. The source material calls this the critical bridge between good intention and actual improvement.
This is the spiritual enforcement mechanism. We are wonderful at setting positive intentions and goals. New Year's resolutions are made every single day. But execution fails without critical, honest feedback.
Right.
Muḥāsabah is that systematic feedback loop. It is the objective and sometimes ruthless audit of your day.
And this audit has to be applied with a sense of urgency. I think this is driven home by that classical mandate from one of the greatest early Muslim leaders, Umar ibn al-Khattab.
His statement is perhaps the most powerful call to spiritual productivity ever uttered. Hold yourself accountable before you are held accountable.
That's powerful.
That statement doesn't just suggest self-assessment is a nice idea. It establishes it as an urgent, proactive necessity. It's a reminder to the believer that the ultimate assessment is coming, but that you have this profound opportunity to fix the ledger now.
It just removes procrastination from your spiritual development. It's proactively managing your moral trajectory before the final deadline arrives.
Precisely. It's the spiritual equivalent of filing your taxes throughout the year instead of waiting for that final, frightening audit.
Yeah.
You take control of the narrative by assessing your own faults and correcting them immediately.
But I have to ask, isn't there a risk that this constant self-assessment, this muḥāsabah, could lead to scrupulosity, or maybe even a paralyzing self-criticism?
Yeah.
How does the prophetic model prevent the tools of accountability from becoming a source of anxiety?
That is a crucial challenge, and the prophetic system addresses it through two essential balances: gratitude and gentleness. Muḥāsabah is not designed to be punitive. It's designed to be corrective. When you perform the audit, you have to start by acknowledging your blessings and your successes. That's the gratitude part. This prevents you from collapsing into self-hatred. And secondly, the structure itself is systematic, which prevents that vague, paralyzing guilt.
Let's look at that systematic structure then. The Prophet T taught a daily introspection that involves assessing the self in three core measurable areas: the heart, speech, and deeds.
These three pillars ensure a holistic check. You're checking your intention, your communication, and your action. And they're prioritized based on their proximity to the source of the motive.
So why does the system start with the heart, the muḥāsabah of the heart?
Because the heart is the engine room of intention. It's the source of sincerity, or iklo. If you have a corrupt intention, the resulting actions, even if they look good on the outside, lose their spiritual weight.
So the audit of the heart demands total honesty.
Total honesty. Were my actions motivated by seeking divine pleasure, or were they secretly motivated by my ego, by a need for external validation, or the desire for praise? This is the most difficult audit, for sure, but it is the most foundational.
This is particularly relevant in the age of social media, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are constantly performing our ethics and our virtue for an external audience. The heart check cuts right through that performance.
It forces you to confront the difference between appearing righteous and being righteous. If you help someone but you immediately post about it, the sincerity of your heart is immediately questionable.
Yeah.
The audit of the heart ensures your internal operating system is running on authentic purpose, not external applause.
Okay, next, we move to speech. In the modern era, where so much of our communication is mediated through screens, emails, Slack messages, text, social media comments, the definition of speech has just expanded dramatically.
And his weight has changed entirely. Muḥāsabah requires assessing. Was my speech truthful? Was it kind? Was it necessary? But in the AI era, we also have to consider the permanence of digital speech. Verbal gossip is fleeting. A harsh comment on social media or a toxic email is permanent. It's recorded. It's searchable. Digital displacement has given temporary words an eternal life.
So the audit of speech now has to confront the risk of creating this permanent, potentially harmful digital footprint that far exceeds the scope of just a verbal mistake.
The accountability has to adjust. Did you engage in careless, wasteful, or harmful communication? Did you contribute to toxicity or misunderstanding online? This audit checks against the casual cruelty and quick judgments that the speed of digital communication so often encourages.
And finally, deeds, the actual observable actions.
This is the external manifestation of the inner state and the verbal plan. Did I fulfill my responsibilities? Did I meet my commitments? Did I observe the rights of others, my family, my colleagues, the community? This is the audit of efficiency and moral behavior, it asks. Did I spend my allotted time and energy on things that align with the intention I set in my morning dua and the clarity I gained in my Tafakkur?
Let's go back to that danger you mentioned earlier, the illusion of progress.
Right. Without structured reflection and objective feedback, progress can become a dangerous illusion. In our culture, we reward activity and busyness. We track hours worked, not necessarily the quality of the moral intention or the spiritual impact.
So Muḥāsabah forces objectivity.
Yes, it requires you to confront the gap between who you want to be, that's the intention, and who you actually were today, that's the deed. If you only audit your intention, you feel good about yourself, but you never improve. If you audit your action against your standard, you see reality, and you know exactly where to apply effort tomorrow.
This individual internal audit still sounds incredibly intense, which is maybe why the sources also emphasize the communal aspect, suggesting the use of accountability circles.
This is such a beautiful safeguard. The prophetic model is deeply communal because, well, human beings are prone to self-deception and also to a paralyzing loneliness. These accountability circles are defined as gentle spaces for honest review, mutual gratitude, and correction.
And the essential characteristic is gentleness.
It's supportive, not punitive. That's the key.
How can we translate this to modern teams or even family structures?
Well, consider applying this on a weekly basis to a family or even a professional team. A team, instead of focusing solely on project metrics, could dedicate 15 minutes a week to a moral review.
What would they ask?
They'd ask, did we operate with patience with each other this week? Did we act with integrity when we were faced with an ethical shortcut? Where did we succeed in upholding our shared values? That's the gratitude. And where did we lapse? That's the correction.
This moves accountability from a fearful, imposed structure that's enforced by management or parents to a supportive framework built on mutual trust. It ensures that an individual's Muḥāsabah is balanced by an external, compassionate perspective.
It creates a protective safety net. If one person is struggling with sincerity, the circle offers practical support, advice, and prayer. If another is struggling with harsh communication speech, the circle provides a safe space for them to be called out in love and to receive actionable strategies for improvement. These three tools are just inherently and powerfully synergistic.
Okay, this is a synthesis moment. We're moving from these individual practices to a holistic operating system. Let's show how these three tools, dua, tafakkur, Muḥāsabah, work together to create something much greater than the sum of their parts.
The interconnectedness is the genius of this system. So, dua starts the process by aligning the heart with divine will. It establishes deep sincerity and reliance. It answers the question, why am I doing this?
Okay, then tafakkur aligns the mind with purpose. It provides that critical clarity to translate an abstract intention into a concrete moral plan. It answers the question, what should I do?
Exactly. And then Muḥāsabah closes the loop. It aligns your behavior with integrity, checking whether the plan and the intention actually manifested correctly in the real world. It answers the question, did I actually do it sincerely and correctly?
So this combination creates this powerful self-sustaining loop of continuous improvement. The source calls it the ihsan cycle.
Yes, the ihsan cycle. Ihsan is the Arabic term for excellence, perfection, or beautification. The Prophet defined it beautifully. He said it is, to worship Allah as if you see Him, for though you do not see Him, He sees you.
Let's delve a bit deeper into ihsan. This concept seems to be the ultimate target state. How does this cycle actually achieve that level of excellence?
Ihsan has a profound duality to it. It requires external beautification, so excellence in your work, your relationships, your deeds, and it requires internal awareness, that acute sense that you are constantly under divine observation.
That shifts the criteria for success entirely.
Completely. Success is no longer measured by external metrics, like how much praise you received. It's measured by internal quality. How sincere was the action?
So if I skip to my intentions become fundamentally ego-driven and my ihsan just collapses.
Exactly. The action might be efficient, but it lacks spiritual quality. If you skip tafakkur, your actions become reactive, clumsy, misdirected. Your effort is high, but your impact is low.
And if you skip Muḥāsabah, you lose all the objective data, your performance stalls, and you're just living under the illusion of goodness.
The cycle is mutually reliant. It serves as this necessary daily calibration process between the heart, the mind, and your observable actions. It moves success from a singular, achieved point like hitting a target to a continuous spiritual trajectory.
It's about mastering the process of correction, then not chasing the illusion of perfection.
That's it. Mistakes are guaranteed. But the commitment to self-assessment and realignment, the commitment to the Isan cycle, is what determines true, sustained spiritual growth. You're constantly refining your internal compass so that it points reliably toward excellence.
It sounds exhausting, though. If I'm constantly auditing myself, doesn't that take me out of the moment?
That's where the power of the rhythm comes in. These aren't meant to be hours-long internal debates. They are brief, structured checkpoints throughout your day. Du'ar is an instantaneous connection. Tafakkur is 10 minutes of stillness. Muḥāsabah is a 5-minute audit at the end. This system ensures you are never spiritually reactive, but always proactively engaged with your purpose. It's the spiritual equivalent of constantly scanning your dashboard while you're driving. It keeps you safe and on track without paralyzing you with fear.
Knowing the theory is vital, but implementing it in a world of constant digital demands, overwhelming schedules, and competing priorities is the real challenge. Let's make this super actionable for the listener, the learner. Let's provide a step-by-step framework from the source material.
We have to. We must embed these tools into the daily routine so they become habitual, not these heroic one-off spiritual sprints.
Okay, let's start with the morning focus. Setting the GPS. How do we actually start the day with jiwa and clear intention?
The day has to begin before the noise begins. So you start with a focused dua and a specific articulated intention, and this is beyond a general prayer. It involves mentally or even verbally articulating, what is my intention for today? Morally patience, honesty, and professionally focus, integrity. You are asking for guidance and seeking alignment before you check that first email or face that first stressor.
So this initial dua acts as a spiritual filter. It ensures everything that follows is rooted in that chosen purpose.
Exactly. It makes you accountable to your own intention from the very start. Next, we address the chaos of the day itself with what the source calls the daytime pause.
This is crucial for managing the constant flow. We need these micro moments of tafakkur.
Yes. Implement short pauses, as brief as 30 seconds to a minute, to reflect mid-task. Use these moments to assess your current emotional and moral direction. For instance, if you're in the middle of a project and you feel overwhelmed, just pause.
You gotta stop for a second.
Stop. Use that moment for a quick internal check. Am I operating with impatience right now? Is my next action being driven by stress or by my core purpose? This is preemptive tafakkur. It gives you clarity before you allow irritation to derail your focus or your integrity.
It's like preventative maintenance. It prevents that emotional hijacking that derails both our productivity and our relationships. It's a spiritual firewall against reactivity.
Absolutely. It ensures that the speed of the modern world doesn't override your internal moral speed limit. And then we transition to the crucial audit phase at the end of the day, the evening check. This is where Muḥāsabah takes center stage.
And the source suggests a specific, quick 5-minute accountability check before you end your day. What should the focus be there?
The check must focus on 2 core elements to maintain that balance we talked about: gratitude plus correction.
Good.
First, spend 2 minutes just acknowledging what went right and the blessings you received. This reinforces the positive momentum, and it prevents the audit from becoming purely self-critical or burdensome. Then, you dedicate 3 minutes to identifying 1 or 2 specific areas for correction. Not a dozen vague regrets, but 1 or 2 pressing lapses in honesty, focus, patience, or gratitude.
And focusing on just 1 or 2 points makes the correction actionable for the next day. It fuels that Isan cycle with manageable goals.
It creates a clear trajectory for continuous, sustainable growth. And then finally, moving beyond the daily structure, we formalize the communal aspect with the weekly structure.
The accountability circles. How does a weekly meeting cement this spiritual growth?
You revisit the idea, but you formalize it for a weekly meeting. This structure provides external validation and support for your individual Muḥāsabah. If you meet with trusted family members or colleagues or friends, you are inviting gentle, objective feedback that you might miss yourself. This weekly gathering ensures that your pursuit of excellence of Isan is supported and sustained by a loving community.
So now let's bring it all back to the core premise of this deep dive, the AI era insight. Why are these ancient spiritual tools superior now, more than ever, in a world dominated by algorithms.
This is the powerful distinction that really validates the source material's title. Algorithms and modern productivity software are brilliantly built to track
All
progress.
right, data points.
Data points, tasks completed, metrics achieved, efficiency ratios. But only reflection, Tafakkur, and Muḥāsabah combined with sincere connection du'a can track true sincerity and purpose.
And we risk becoming like the machines we build, highly efficient, yet devoid of a soul. We can train AI to generate ethical-sounding language and optimal workflows, but we cannot train it to possess genuine intention or moral consciousness.
And this leads to the central problem of digital displacement. As efficiency gets automated, we risk offloading the need for our own human moral effort. If a machine handles the complex logic, we can become complacent about our own internal moral logic. These tools ensure that as the world optimizes for efficiency, you prioritize internal truth and moral development.
The ultimate success, therefore, isn't measured by the efficiency of your output. It's measured by the quality of your intention, the clarity of your reflection, and the integrity of your actions.
You remain the conductor of your own soul. The greatest innovation, as the source concludes, is still deep self-awareness cultivated through faith and disciplined practice. These tools ensure the human soul remains the most advanced, purposeful technology in the AI era.
This deep dive into prophetic productivity has been just so rich with actionable insights. Let's review the core knowledge nuggets for you, the learner, one last time.
First, remember that the Prophet T established a personal growth system that is rooted fundamentally in heart-centered awareness. It all begins with sincerity and reliance on the divine, and then it works its way outward into disciplined action.
Second, the three tools are a non-negotiable spiritual cycle. Du'a reconnects you with your purpose and divine alignment, which prevents arrogance. Tafakkur restores your clarity and insight, which prevents reactivity.
And Muḥāsabah ensures objective progress and integrity, which prevents stagnation.
And finally, that crucial balance principle you mentioned.
Yes, self-development without spirituality leads inevitably to arrogance. But spirituality without discipline leads to stagnation. You need both. You require the vertical connection of du'a and the horizontal disciplined self-audit of Tafakkur and Muḥāsabah.
That is the essential tension we have to maintain. To be humble enough to recognize your shortcomings, but disciplined enough to fix them immediately.
So we want to leave you with a specific, highly detailed action plan to turn all this knowledge into immediate application.
Okay, let's start today with a daily du'a journal. Just record 3 specific daily moments, no matter how small, where you paused, you connected with God, and you either sought guidance or expressed sincere gratitude. Track these 3 moments to build that muscle of constant connection.
Second, set a dedicated Tafakkur time. Protect 10 minutes. Ideally, screen-free, quiet reflection time. And use those 2 powerful questions. What did I learn today? And what did Allah show me? This is non-negotiable mental maintenance.
Third, create a simple Muḥāsabah chart. You can use a notebook or a spreadsheet, it doesn't matter. But daily, rate yourself on 4 key internal virtues that the Prophet emphasized: honesty, focus, patience, and gratitude. Give yourself a 1 to 5, and then use the lowest score as the one thing you commit to correcting the next day.
And finally, take the step to explore or to join a prophetic accountability circle. Find 1 or 2 trusted individuals who share this goal of Ihsan and commit to meeting weekly for gentle review, shared du'a, and mutual encouragement.
These tools really are the essential software update your soul needs for the complexity, the noise, and the constant distraction of the AI era. They shift your focus from tracking temporary efficiency to ensuring timeless purpose. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into prophetic tools for success.
Keep exploring, keep reflecting, and most importantly, keep applying these timeless principles. We'll see you next time.